Hey everybody, Cody Menz here with a quick little first look video of the new upcoming Tier 8 American double barrel heavy tank. Probably going to be a premium, tank most likely, although some people think like this will inevitably lead to a tech tree as well. This is most likely going to be a premium tank coming at some point in the future. This is currently in the game files as of the 1.7 update. This tank, the TS-54, is newer to where it's still in the balancing stages to where these stats most likely aren't final. Although you can kind of get a general sense of what the playstyle is going to be. No gameplay here because the tank isn't playable for all of us normal people that aren't super testers. The historical reference that they have here kind of explaining it is this was a heavy tank project that was presented to the Aberdeen Proving Grounds Committee back in 1954. It had the two gun setup here as we see, and a pretty large turret, and both American and British guns were suggested to where this is the caliber on this gun is I think 98 millimeters, if I'm not 94 millimeters. So it's using, I'm assuming, a British gun, given that, and essentially it was deemed too crazy and they never built it, and it basically didn't reach the prototype stage and didn't reach anything past the concept stage. In any event though, what's this thing about? So let's do a quick little look-see. So this has the 94 British DB gun. As far as the crew goes, it's got a 5 crew setup with the 2 loaders, commander, gunner, driver, and I didn't dig into field mods too much here, but didn't really seem too different from what you see from your typical tier 8 heavy tank. It is labeled as a breakthrough heavy tank. This one, I'm going to compare it against the other double barrel tanks that we have at tier 8, but what I get here is it's a semi hold down tank, really good frontal armor if you're able to hide the lower glacis. The 8 degrees of gun depression holds you back a little bit since it's not 10. However, this thing is going to be able to shrug off some shots unless people know where to shoot you. I'll go over that too. The gun on it seems a little lackluster if you ask me, compared to what we already kind of have for the Russian double barrels at this tier. And if you throw in like the Cody T-56 with the double shot that has, then yeah, it's even more crazy. But the stats aren't final here, but the general play style seems kind of more of like a tanky, slow playing American tank rather than like run and gun, brawling up front. So getting into things here, let's get into the comparison. I just have the IS-2, and also the 703 version 2 122. Just basic 2, double barrel tanks to compare this against. So you'll notice first off though, this is pretty low alpha given the small 94 millimeter gun, only 280 damage a shot, and pretty low penetration, stacked up against these two over here at 200 millimeters. So the premium round, it goes up a little bit when it comes to the penetration, 252, and your HE round isn't that great compared to some of like the newer, fancier tanks that we have. The American HE rounds are just kind of basic, so your penetration's not too great here on this tank, and your alpha's somewhat low, especially for a heavy tank using double barrels. Maybe that's why this concept never really made it off the drawing board. Overall though, so when it comes to your reload time, it only takes 16 seconds for the magazine to reload, 3 seconds for a shell to load, and you only have 2 rounds, obviously, with the double barrel. So it shoots fairly fast in between shots, which is a plus compared to the IS-22, which is 4 seconds, and then the 703 version 2, which is 5 seconds. Otherwise, pretty good gun traverse, especially compared to these. Good gun depression compared to these, although 8 degrees, a little bit low for an American tank, but it makes most hills workable. You just won't be able to go over like the steeper hills without showing a little bit of your lower glacis, unfortunately. Aiming time, Surprised this is as high as it is. This is again one of the stats that you might see changed later on, especially because the accuracy 0.42, that seems almost like kind of a placeholder to me. When you're looking at it compared to the IS-22, you know, it's definitely really inaccurate. When you're considering that the damage per minute is also, it's better than the 703 version 2. However, you know, it's not fantastic. Given the low alpha, the low penetration, the low accuracy. So these stats, I feel like they'll change. Maybe bring the DPM up a little bit, the accuracy and aiming time up a little bit, too. The penetration, I think, you know, I don't think they're going to touch that too much, just given the actual gun that's on this thing. You know, I guess the penetration just sucks on it. Hit points, 1400. So not super great at tier 8 heavies, also not the worst, but it's just kind of average. The whole armor, we'll get into a look at the armor model here shortly, but you'll notice a really thick value on the turret front, and the front is actually pretty thick for an American tank. But it's actually got good angles on this thing, so the armor is actually pretty darn good. It's probably the best quality of this tank. When it comes to the mobility, surprisingly, it's not that quick. So you'll notice the specific power here isn't great, you know, compared to these two, and then your mobility is not great either. So it's just, it's nothing fantastic here. Traverse speed's okay, camo, nothing special, but it does have pretty good view range. Especially, you know, it's got 30 meters over both of these tanks, so typical American fashion, it's actually got pretty good view range, you know, for a heavy tank at tier 8. And, you know, general playstyle is going to be like playing mid-range, it seems like, you know, kind of little hills, using cover to your advantage. Now, looking into this tank a little bit more in depth for things we can't find in the game. So on tanks.gg, got the comparison tool up here against the same tanks. Gun handling, pretty good. You know, the 703 version 2's got fantastic gun handling, and this has these same exact values there. And when it comes to the terrain resistance, that's where this one, I feel again, this is a little bit placeholdery, where they seem really high compared to what a typical tier 8 heavy is. It doesn't feel like they've updated these yet. Like this is still in the active stages of being super tested. Now, when it comes to the armor, so this is against the new TVP 100 with its crazy 270 millimeters of penetration. Doesn't look that great at first glance, which this thing does have kind of unique weak spots. As you can see, this little periscope or view range finder or whatever, gun sight, those things are actually weak spots on this, where 150 millimeters, because once you pen that scope, there's no armor behind it. Don't think that that'll change, you know, given that Wargaming doesn't usually change armor models too much like that. Maybe they'll up the value a little bit so it's a little stronger. Otherwise, you just have the little cupola here. The rest of the turret, though, is actually pretty freaking good. So just on level ground, you know, somebody shooting at you, it's 310 millimeters effective, and then you're going up to even higher values. It's a very small sliver under the gun, but that's like very hard to hit. So it's actually got a really freaking good armor scheme on the turret, except for these weak spots. Once people figure out how to shoot them, then yeah, that's the issue. Although, unless you have a really accurate gun or you're close up to somebody, they're going to have to try to, you know, aim specifically here. And if they miss, it's pretty, you know, they're either going to pen you if they hit that, or they're going to 100% bounce off of you. So it could be a benefit, given that the cupola is small. Otherwise, there's a very small driver cupola here, and the great thing is, so even against higher pen things, it's fairly strong on like the turret ring. Adding a little bit of angle, giving your 8 degrees of gun depression, you're going to be able to get this to a ricochet, which is really nice. Lower glacis isn't very strong though, and then even the side isn't too bad for an American tank when it comes to being able to side scrape a little bit. It's not fantastic, but for an American tank, it's actually not too bad. Overall, though, you know, this tank, again, it's in the very early stages of, you know, super testing. Most likely it's going to be a premium tank. You know, maybe, you know, you might see it like a reward tank for like a 2023's battle pass, or something like a ranked reward tank. It's very possible them throwing one in for ranked battles. You just never know, but most likely this is either going to be a premium or reward tank. Some people think that they might be coming out with American double barrel branch at some point, because I guess there's enough concepts. However, I doubt that this would be in a tech tree if there is one, just given Wargaming's previous design and release stages. In any event though, thanks for tuning into this video. Hopefully this has you a little bit excited, and thanks for watching. Have a very nice day.